Welcome to CPF Firewire, a podcast from California professional firefighters where we discuss a wide range of issues affecting firefighters, our unions, our families, and the communities we serve.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the CPF Firewire. Today, I'm really excited to be joined by the California Professional Firefighters 6th District Vice President, Tim Edwards. Tim is also the president of CAL FIRE Firefighters Local 2881, not only the largest fire union in the state of California, but probably arguably the largest firefighter union in the nation. Tim, love having you here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
As you said, I'm the president of CAL FIRE Local 2881. I started with, at the time, CDF back in '93 as a firefighter one in Tulare, of all places, and then eventually went to San Bernardino County, transferred down to San Bernardino County as our firefighter one, where I met Ray Snodgrass, one of our past presidents, and spent 6 years in San Bernardino, and then moved to Riverside County as a firefighter two in the city of Indio, where I met another former president, Bob Wolf, as my captain at the time, who those two individuals got me involved in the union early on, and came up to run for our rank and file position and got that, and then ran for president, and here I am today.
Well, thanks for being here today. You started with legends. You know, for me, it was Dick Mayberry. I knew Ray, but I really knew Bob Wolf, a lot better than I knew Ray. And it just, these guys that influence you to get involved in labor and to make a job better for others is, I think that's that common thread between us. Yeah. And I just love that. But what I really want to talk about is the 66-hour work week and the reduction. And I don't think a lot of the members really understand the work that 2881 had to do, you in particular with your bargaining teams. How important and how far did your bargaining team have to go just to set the table to get to where we are today?
Yeah, well, it was a process because, 2 years ago when we went into contract negotiations, the direction from the membership was to achieve a 56-hour duty week with no loss in compensation. So, and at that time, the state was, in good financial standings, and they felt like we should have had it at that point in time. And rightfully so, the bargaining team too. But when it got into the nitty and gritty of things, it was realized early on that they weren't going to go straight to a 56, they wanted to step down. So that became actually more complicated than some people think because the direction from the membership was not a 66. It was a 56.
Right.
So we had to work with the administration. We had to work with CalHR to develop a 66 into the language for this contract. And then we had to go back to the membership and get that language approved to give us direction to even move toward a 66 because we didn't have that. Right. So the bargaining team, had to really work hard to get the membership to understand, like, hey, we haven't given up on the 56, but we have to go through this process first. And so in that language of the contract was agreed upon that we would move toward a 66, form a joint labor management committee meeting, which would then hopefully hash out all the nuances moving into this year. And we did that. Myself and our rank and file director, Peter Bochter, and my vice president, Pete Manoa, met with management over the last year and a half just to develop the plan that we could present to the governor's office and to CalHR and to the department and everybody on how we can make this happen,
It was amazing to me, kind of when I sat down and was shown the language, this is what gets us to this point to make this ask, and having had a number of conversations with you on this is what it looks like, and that if we can achieve this at the end of this period of time, we should be at a 56-hour work week, and just the planning that went into that. How long did it take you and your team or you to kind of craft that master plan? This is what we need to do to be successful in the end down the road.
Yeah, like I said, we probably spent well over a year on that with the department. We were pretty fortunate that the department actually came to the table realizing this needed to be done. And so we didn't meet much resistance at the table as we would have. So it helped move things along because we had them run the numbers on like how many people we're going to need to hire, how many training classes and stuff like that we're going to have to do to get people hiring. But to develop a plan that under the 66 at the end of that gets us to a 56 that was really the nuance of like, hey, okay, you're going to hire firefighters, but you need training, you need academies, you need personnel to do all that. So it was a bunch of puzzle pieces that needed to come together and lay out to make it happen, which we thought was a financial benefit to both us, the department, and everybody, how we could do it financially sound and sell it to the state, right?
It was amazing kind of on this end when you guys, your bargaining was set, your agreement was made within your MOU, and then the initial conversations that you and I had, and then you and I and GP Kelly with the governor, and just kind of how there was a lot that took place in the last 12 months to get to that point where we could make this joint budget request. And I think a lot of people don't understand, or not understand, but why would they necessarily know the amount of work to get in the position to make this ask? It truly is historic.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit it on the nose. First off, we developed a plan with the department, but to push this plan over the top would take multiple entities, California Professional Firefighters, International Association of Firefighters, and us together to do it. And our influences on legislators and people that needed to be touched every avenue to understand why this is necessary, not just because we want to change our work week, but why for the health and safety of firefighters as a whole, this is beneficial, why it is for the state of California, this is beneficial. And I think, the California Professional Firefighters, who speaks for all firefighters, is a big, strong voice at the Capitol, and Cal Fire Local 2881 as a voice, we're a voice, but not as big as the California Professional Firefighter speaking for 33,000. And then with Ed Kelly coming out to meet, that helped also put some weight behind it to get it over the top. Yeah. Well, I would say get us to the point where we are today, right? We still have a little bit to go.
It was like a three-legged stool, and you take one piece out of it, and the stool's not going to stay standing. And just CPF having a role, IFF having a role, 2881 setting the table just to be able to make that ask. It's been a pretty incredible thing to watch. And we're in phase one. We're not done yet. We still got to get through the budget, so nobody takes their foot off the gas. You said you came on in the early 90s. Your work schedule 72 hours at a time. What has that been like over the course of your career, almost 30 years?
Well, when I actually started, my work hour was 96. A firefighter one did a 4-day work week.
Wow.
And so I started when we were doing a 4-day work week, and that was just our firefighter one classification. Everybody from permanent, what we call firefighter 2 up, was working a 72 in our Schedule A department and our captains and engineers. So when I came on, I was a firefighter 1. And when we moved that movement to just take the firefighters off that and put them on everybody else's shift was huge, because like you said, we worked 96, but you never went home.
I didn't. What year was that? I did not know that.
That was 93 and 94. We didn't actually change the firefighter 1 weekend work week and probably till early 2001, actually, when we actually changed that work week. So when I try to, you hear people say it was 72 when we last changed our work. That was for our permanent classification, was the last time we actually changed the work week for them. For the firefighter ones, it was like early 2000, 2001 when we went to a straight 72 for them. And that's also when FLSA really kicked in for us, because we were paid at halftime for anything over a 56 was halftime. And at my time, we call it the nickel, right? Where if you got woken up between, you didn't get paid from midnight to 5 when you were at the station. If you got woken up, then you got paid.
And that was the nickel. I
earned my nickel. So then that's when we got it. And that was calculated at time and a half. But everything else after 56 was actual halftime.
Wow.
So I started in an era, but, back then mega fires were 10,000 acres. We were just really getting into it. And, we lived on strike teams. Now we say they work a 72, but they really don't, because of the lack of staffing in the work week. They're probably working a 96 plus on the average. Mm-hmm. And then mega fires, 30, 40, 50 days with no staffing.
Even the mega fires, but even the work schedule over the course of your time as a president, and then just being a 30-year firefighter, what have you seen the toll on not just the individuals, but their families? What do you see that's pretty common?
Oh, well, our divorce rate is absolutely high. And unfortunately, we all know about the PTSI and suicide rates in firefighters. Ours has grown extremely faster than I think most other departments, if you actually really look at it, because of the magnitude of what we do. But divorce rates are just off the hook. It's destroying families, and that's where we can no longer have that, because I use an example of myself. Even working a 72, my wife is an RN. She works a 12-hour shift. I get stuck at work or I don't make it home, someone's got to watch the kids. So then she calls off at work or something like that, which causes strain on her. And then you get home and you're tired, but she's tired too. So That's where the strain at the home goes.
I'm out of it. My kids are adults, but I can't imagine what it's like on our younger members with young families and young kids. And thinking of them, why is it so important to get to the 66-hour work week en route to a 56-hour work week?
Well, it's family life 100%. Most of our guys, because we are fixed schedules also, don't get to see their kids play baseball or soccer or whatever sport they're in or event they're in at school. They don't get to see a home life with their kids. So it's important to start cutting it away. We're still going to have those big campaign fires. Yes. We're never going to get away from those. But if you can just take away their daily work life and make it easier to be home with their family, it really puts the stress on the family and the kids, especially the younger generation of ours. I see them being more involved with their kids, and I think even I was at some point, but they want to be home with their families more, which rightfully so, and this takes them away from that, which, you come to work thinking about your family, your head's not in the game,
right?
And that puts you at risk at work.
That one's always bothered me. For any of our members, if you've got things going on at home and your family life, and if you're, we've seen this age of overtime and shortages, that when you're on duty, you need to focus being on duty. And having a healthy family life is everything. I can just see why that would be so important to the youngest members, all members, but certainly the younger members coming in.
Yeah, you have to have that anchor at home, right? All of us have to have someone to go home to and have that place where you can go and get away from it all. But when you can't, because you're taking the stresses from work to home, from home to work, you don't get that break, which is causing all the stresses. And just to have, some people think, well, it's only 24 hours. That 24 hours at home over a period of time, 13 days a year, you can't make up for it in a way. You can't even put a dollar amount to it, or what it means, not only to the individual, but to its family, the kids, and everything else that comes along with it, right? And so that's why it's just so important. I mean, I think a 72-hour work week this day and age, our department went, when I started, from running 150,000 calls a year to we're well over 600,000 calls a year now. And it's not just wildland, as you know. It's everything. Right. It's everything.
If people don't know it or understand it, Cal Fire firefighters are all risk, just like everybody else. They have medics, they have trucks, they have rescue companies, they have wildland companies.
Hazmat, crash rescues in San Luis Obispo.
All do the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting to watch that growth and how the recognition as an all-risk organization and how we're really, I feel like we're beginning to coalesce. We're all firefighters. Period. Because if you're a firefighter in California, there's a high likelihood that you've been on one of these campaign fires. Last couple of years we were lucky, but you go back to the Dixie and some of the fires before that, and I remember talking with you as things were getting very stressful and being informed, hey, I got members that haven't been home in 30, 35, or 40 days. And I can't even fathom what that's like, not only on a person, but on a family. And I know going down from a 72 to a 66 is not going to cure that, but I hope that everybody looks at that as we're in phase one, we see light at the end of the tunnel, we got to keep moving towards that goal.
Yeah, I think what the 66 does for that, as it adds those extra bodies, it will allow time to rotate in and out of these fires too. We didn't have the staffing to do it based on a 72. We don't have a third platoon like a lot of other departments, so we rely on two. So whether you're at the fire or at your station, you're stuck at work no matter what. So this third platoon will hopefully allow some more relief coming in on those, because our guys would see local government after 14 days drive off and a whole new crew come in, some even after 7, and ours would be there. My longest stint, even as a firefighter too, was 50 days stuck on. Wow. And that was strange. I was fortunate because, my family was an hour and a half away, where some of our guys work hours away from their family, so they can't even come into the station. Yeah, it's crazy. So I think the 66 moves toward having some relief on these big fires too, along with hopefully jumping on them quicker so they don't become these huge mega fires, right, with the staffing.
Going forward, and you and I have talked a ton, and trying to bring awareness among the entire CPF membership that we are one. Is there anything that you would want our members to know when they think of 2881 members, aside from they're all risk, they do exactly what everybody else does?
Well, I think overall, I'm seeing it better as I go around, and as we, under your leadership as the president, making people understand that you're right. We're all firefighters in the state of California. We're all going to end up on a wildland fire together, a mega fire together, or some major incident where we're all going to be working. But to understand, we deal in a different avenue because we're state firefighters. I know some people don't like the fact that we call ourselves California's firefighters, but I don't take Anaheim or any of those guys away from what they are, right? That's who we are. We're California state firefighters. We're not any better than anybody else. That's who we are. And I think more and more are understanding that because of the system that we have to work in California, that we're all in it together, and if you achieve it for us, you're going to achieve the better staffing to take off of local government responding to our fires. It takes less strain off of them. Our contracts being staffed better also. So I think I've seen the fire service and CAL FIRE within the state of California and under your leadership come closer together than I've ever seen it before. The understanding is we're not against CPF. CPF's not against CAL FIRE, or local government's not against. We're all in it together. And when you rise one, we all rise. And that's truly under the benefit of you being willing to listen to that. I won't go into the past, but that was not always there in the past.
What I really like, and it started with Bob, it continued with Mike and Cliff, and now you, we don't see these major issues anymore. We have ones and twos, but it's like a weed. We pick it really quick, and everybody gets to where they need to be. It's like, hey, nobody's an enemy here. What usually I've found is that we need to communicate a little bit better. When I'm sitting there talking to you, or when I'm working on behalf of your members, I speak like that's who I am. Or if I'm doing it for the city of Hayward, it doesn't matter. That's kind of who I take on, especially if the issue is there. And that's what I want to see firefighters across this state. If you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
Yeah, and I think they are getting that. I also think, we had to put a little bit of pride aside, to be quite frank, where, we figure we have, people always question why we have our own lobbyists and why we have our own certain things. It's because of the arena we have to play in, and we relied on that a lot more, and it's just putting that pride aside, saying, hey, no one person in the state of California, especially in the fire service, can move something alone. It takes all of us as a group, where we're stronger together as one voice to move things along, especially in California. And so it took us reaching out also, and for, like I said, I have, you, which is, I've known you and you've known me, where we can have those candid conversations and know where this is where we have to go. And that plays a lot. But it takes me coming to you also and saying, hey, Brian, I need you. Yep. And it takes you and what you have done and say, okay, what do you need me to do? Because that's why I'm here. So 100%. That plays a lot. And like you say, when we have these conversations with these little locals, most of it's just having that conversation, because you'll find out nobody's the real boogeyman in the room. We just haven't had a conversation, right?
Yeah. What's interesting to me, and I'm no better than anybody else, but I've spent quite a bit of time trying to familiarize myself with the machine that is 2881. Somebody corrected me. They laughed at me when I referred to a Ranger unit. Yeah. They're like, you're old.
That is.
But it is, when you really stop and look at the size of the 2881 board, everything that encompasses how the different units are kind of contained as somewhat like locals. And every time I think I understand how the machine works, I don't. Yeah. But there's a lot of it I understand, and it's like, I get it. I get why Reed and Associates do lobby. It's a big machine, and this is what a lot of our members don't realize, and you do, is that when we look at stuff, whether it's for municipal, whether it's for state, it doesn't matter. When we look at stuff for the fire service in California, we don't just get to look at the fire service. We have to look at all kinds of different dimensions. Do you find that too? Because you have to look at so many different things just to make sure that you get your achievement here and you don't mess it up somewhere else. You have to do that too.
Well, yeah. Well, we negotiated a contract with the state of California. That affects our 122 city contracts, our 38 county contracts, our 4 special districts. So every time we have to worry about down to even local government, how they're going to deal with our contract, what it means to that city, like the city of Paradise or Butte and places like that. So we have to have a global picture of when we're negotiating something here at the state, what effect it has down to our local government contracts. And that's really, like you said, we have 21 units, but within those 21 units, we may have 10 or 12. Like in Riverside, we have 28 city contracts within Riverside County that we have to deal with, right? And now San Diego County and the city contracts. So we deal with multiple city, local governments.
When you do an MOU,
Yeah.
it's big, and it affects a lot more than most of us would really think about or realize, and that it's fascinating.
Yeah, well, even we're with this 66, right? We're reducing the work week, but adding personnel, which is going to be a cost to those contracts. So now there's a lot of our members that are concerned about what does it mean for that contract. Well, it could mean something, but we have to go and get involved in that city council or that board of supervisors to make them understand what we're doing with the legislators, understand this is necessary for the health and safety of your firefighters,
It definitely is not a simple task or undertaking. And one, I'm super glad to have you on the board and as a partner. I learn something every day. And I think for me, probably one of the most important things is if I don't see something, if I miss something, I always appreciate that you let me know, and I mean that in a good way. I appreciate that communication. It's everything.
Well, you and I are thrust into a system up here where we have to do the dance at the Capitol, and it does neither one of us any good to not know what we're doing. So it's always better for me to come and tell you right off the bat. And whether one of us don't agree with it or not, we can at least see through that and understand what the benefit is. So it's just easier to just be straightforward with everything, to get through it, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
And anything you want to add? Did I miss anything? Anything you want to cover?
No, I just want to thank everybody, all the firefighters within the California Professional Firefighters, for standing behind their brothers and sisters in Local 2881 on this and really seeing that this is something that they are going to be able to say they accomplished also.
Absolutely.
That everybody's going to be able to participate and say they achieved this for Local 2881. So just thank you to all my brothers and sisters out there. That's all.
Tim, thanks for your time today. I know you're at the table and bargaining, and you got a full calendar. I just want to say thank you, and to everybody who's listening. We will catch you next time on the California Professional Firefighters Firewire, CPF Firewire. To everybody out there, thanks for listening. Catch you later.